Ah, the space between two souls. What a curious thing it is. In the absence of words, in the stillness of no contact, we often believe we are severed, as if connection could be so easily undone. But is it truly so? Or is this silence not a void, but a fertile ground where understanding, healing, and transformation can take root? We are here to explore the journey that unfolds in this space, the 9 stages they go through during no contact. Yet remember, this is not merely their story, it is a reflection of us all. For in the silence we meet ourselves, and in meeting ourselves we rediscover the essence of connection. Very strange that for most of our lives we forget who we are. Ah, the space between two souls. What a curious thing it is. In the absence of words, in the stillness of no contact, we often believe we are severed, as if connection could be so easily undone. But is it truly so? Or is this silence not a void, but a fertile ground where understanding, healing, and transformation can take root? For when we step away from the noise of interaction, we are not stepping away from each other, but from the distractions that obscure the deeper truths of our connection. In those early moments of no contact, there is often a rush of confusion. It feels unnatural, almost unbearable, as if the bond that tethered us is suddenly cut loose. The mind rebels against this perceived loss, searching desperately for answers, replaying old conversations, and questioning the choices that brought us here. Yet this resistance is but the first stirrings of a profound journey, a journey inward. You see, the absence of another's voice creates a space where your own voice, often drowned out, begins to emerge. As the days unfold, what begins to surface is a wave of emotions, crashing and retreating like the tides. Denial often comes first, a refusal to accept the silence as reality. But as time stretches, this denial gives way to frustration, anger, or even blame. We point fingers outward, hoping to find solace in the notion that the other is at fault. Yet if we are honest, we find that this blame is fleeting. It dissolves as we sit longer with ourselves, as we realize that the other person's silence is not a weapon, but an invitation, a chance to confront the parts of ourselves we have long ignored. In this silence, a transformation begins. At first it is subtle. The urge to reach out weakens, replaced by an introspective curiosity. Who am I without this person? What was I seeking from them that I could not find within myself? These questions, though uncomfortable, are the seeds of profound growth. They force us to strip away the layers of dependency and illusion, revealing a self that is both raw and resilient, revealing a self that is both raw and resilient. It is here that we begin to understand that our pain is not punishment, but a teacher, urging us to grow beyond our old patterns and perspectives. Time, as it always does, works its quiet magic. What once felt unbearable starts to feel neutral. The storms of longing and anger calm, replaced by a stillness that was there all along, waiting beneath the surface. And in that stillness, we begin to see the other person not through the lens of our desires or expectations, but as they truly are. Another soul navigating their own journey. It is a humbling realization, for it reminds us that love is not about possession, but about presence, about allowing others the space to grow and evolve, just as we must do for ourselves. As this perspective takes hold, something remarkable happens. We begin to reclaim our wholeness. What was once an aching emptiness becomes a spaciousness, filled with possibility and self-discovery. We start to see that the connection we thought was lost was never really external. It was always within us, reflecting back in the form of the other person. This understanding brings a sense of peace, a knowing that whether or not they return, we are complete in ourselves. This understanding brings a sense of peace, a knowing that whether or not they return, we are complete in ourselves. And perhaps in the end that is the greatest gift of no contact, the realization that love is not a thing to be grasped or clung to, but a force that flows through us, shaping and being shaped by the way we choose to show up in the world. It is not something we give or take, it is something we are. And in this realization we find the courage to let go, not as an act of resignation, but as an act of trust. Trust in ourselves, in the journey, and in the unfolding of life itself. For in letting go, we do not lose. We simply make room for what is meant to be. In the beginning, silence can feel like an unwelcome guest, a disquieting reminder of the absence that no contact brings. But as the days stretch into weeks, this silence begins to take on a different form. It becomes a mirror, reflecting back at you all the things that were once hidden beneath the surface of conversation and connection. It is in this stillness that emotions arise, often in waves, each one carrying its own lesson, its own truth waiting to be discovered. At first there is longing, a deep, visceral pull to close the gap, to reach out and bridge the distance with words or gestures. This longing comes not just from the absence of the other person, but from a deeper place within, a yearning for resolution, for understanding, for the comfort of familiarity. But as the days pass, this longing begins to shift. It is no longer just about the other person. It becomes a dialogue with yourself, an exploration of what this space is trying to teach you. Then there is confusion. Why did things unfold the way they did? What could have been done differently? These questions swirl in the mind, creating a fog that feels impossible to navigate. Yet if you sit with this confusion long enough, it starts to clear. You begin to see that the questions themselves are not as important as the willingness to ask them. For in questioning, you are not seeking answers from the other person, you are seeking understanding within yourself. As time moves forward, emotions deepen and evolve. There may be anger at them, at yourself, at the circumstances that brought you to this point. But anger too is a teacher. It shows you where your boundaries were crossed, where your expectations were unmet, where your pain resides. If you allow yourself to feel it fully without judgment or resistance, it begins to soften. Beneath the anger there is often sadness, a quiet mourning for what was lost or what could have been. This sadness is not a weakness. It is a sign that you cared deeply, that the connection mattered. And in acknowledging this, you take another step toward healing. The silence of no contact also brings with it moments of clarity. These moments are fleeting at first, like glimpses of sunlight through the clouds. But over time they grow stronger, more steady. You start to see patterns you hadn't noticed before, patterns in your behavior, in theirs, in the dynamic you shared. This awareness is not about assigning blame, it is about understanding. And with understanding comes the possibility of change, of growth, of doing things differently, moving forward. What becomes clear too is the role of perspective. When you are in the midst of the connection, it can be hard to see the full picture. You are too close, too entangled. But distance allows for a wider view. You begin to see the other person not as an extension of yourself, but as a separate being with their own experiences, their own struggles, their own path to walk. This realization is both humbling and freeing. This realization is both humbling and freeing. It allows you to release the grip of control, to let go of the need to fix or change them, and to focus instead on your own journey. And so the process unfolds, step by step, moment by moment. There is no rush, no timeline, no right way to navigate this experience. Each stage brings its own challenges and its own gifts. And as you move through them, you begin to notice a shift within yourself. The longing and confusion that once consumed you begin to fade. In their place there is a sense of peace, of acceptance, of wholeness. From inside you begin to see. There is no longer a tendency towards illness or disease or laziness. It is no longer a tendency towards suffering, of wholeness. This is the true gift of no contact, the opportunity to return to yourself, to reconnect with the parts of you that were overshadowed by the relationship, to rediscover your own strength and resilience, to find your own voice. It is not an easy journey, but it is a necessary one. For in the end, no contact is not about the other person, it is about you. It is about the space you create for growth, for healing, for transformation. It is about becoming the person you were always meant to be. As the silence of no contact settles in, another layer of the experience begins to unfold. It is a subtle shift, one that often goes unnoticed at first, yet it carries profound significance. It is the realization that the silence is not empty. Instead, it is filled with the echoes of the past, the energy of the present, and the infinite possibilities of what lies ahead. This is the stage where the mind starts to wander, where memories rise unbidden, pulling you back to moments shared, words exchanged, and emotions that once felt so vivid. And happiness. At first, these memories might feel like a trap, binding you to the past in a way that feels heavy and unrelenting. But if you allow yourself to sit with them, to observe them without judgment or attachment, they begin to take on a different quality. They become less about what was lost and more about what was learned. Each memory, each interaction holds a mirror to who you were in that moment, a reflection of your growth, your vulnerabilities, and the parts of yourself you may have overlooked. This stage of the journey often brings with it a profound sense of vulnerability. Without the distractions of conversation or interaction, you are left with yourself in the rawest sense. It can feel unsettling, even frightening, to confront your own thoughts and feelings without the comfort of external validation or reassurance. But within this vulnerability lies an incredible strength. It leads to your own experience of vulnerability, self-awareness. But within this vulnerability lies an incredible strength, for it is only when we allow ourselves to be fully seen, by ourselves first and foremost, that we can begin to heal and grow. With time, the focus begins to shift. Where once your thoughts were consumed by the other person, what they might be feeling, what they might be doing, whether they are thinking of you, they start to turn inward. You begin to ask different questions. What do I want? What do I need? What does this experience teach me about myself? These questions mark a turning point, a movement away from external fixation and toward internal exploration. They are the first steps toward reclaiming your own power. As you delve deeper into this inner journey, you may encounter moments of clarity that feel almost transcendent. These moments often come unexpectedly, a sudden realization, a shift in perspective, a sense of peace that washes over you like a wave. In these moments, you glimpse the truth that lies beneath the surface of all relationships, that love is not about possession or control, but about presence and connection. The true is true. Relationships are not what we think. The true is true. Relationships, it is not something we find in another, but something we awaken within ourselves. This awakening brings with it a sense of freedom. The chains of attachment and expectation begin to loosen, and you start to see the other person not as a source of your happiness or fulfillment, but as a fellow traveler on their own path. This does not mean that the connection was insignificant, or that the feelings you shared were not real. On the contrary, it is a testament to the depth of your love that you can let it exist without needing to grasp or hold on. And as this understanding deepens, so too does your relationship with yourself. You begin to treat yourself with the same kindness and compassion that you once extended to the other. You recognize the importance of setting boundaries, of honoring your own needs, of nurturing your own growth. This is not a rejection of the other person or what you shared. It is an affirmation of your own worth and the value of your own journey. The silence of no contact, once a source of pain and longing, becomes a sanctuary. It becomes a space where you can breathe, reflect, and simply be. It is no longer about waiting for the other person to return or hoping for a particular outcome. It is about embracing the uncertainty, trusting the process, and allowing life to unfold in its own time. In the end, this stage of the journey is not about finding closure or resolution. It is about finding yourself. It is about recognizing that the silence is not a void but a canvas, one that you can fill with the colors of your own healing, growth, and transformation. And in doing so, you come to understand that the greatest gift you can give to yourself and to others is your own wholeness. As the silence stretches, something remarkable begins to happen. What once felt like a void begins to take shape, revealing layers of meaning and insight that were previously obscured. In this stage, the experience of no contact transforms into something akin to a quiet revelation. It is no longer just an absence of interaction. It becomes a profound journey into the depths of your own being. The greatest thrill is not At first there is resistance. The mind clings to the familiar patterns of thoughts and emotion, replaying scenarios, revisiting conversations, and trying to make sense of the situation. But over time, the futility of this exercise becomes apparent. The mind begins to tire, and in that exhaustion, a kind of surrender takes place. This surrender is not defeat. It is an opening. It is the recognition that some things are beyond your control, and in that recognition a new kind of clarity emerges. This clarity often comes in moments of stillness, when the noise of the mind quiets, and you are left alone with your feelings. These feelings may be complex, even contradictory, grief mingled with gratitude, sadness intertwined with hope. Yet, as you sit with them, you begin to see them for what they are, transient waves passing through you, not definitions of who you are. This realization is liberating. It allows you to experience your emotions fully without becoming trapped by them. In this space of awareness, you start to notice patterns that were once invisible. You see how your fears and insecurities may have influenced your actions, how your expectations may have shaped your perception of the relationship. This is not about blaming yourself or the other person. It is about understanding. It is about seeing the situation not as a failure, but as a reflection of the lessons you needed to learn. Lessons which prove fatal in the human experience. It is about seeing the lessons you needed to learn. One of the most profound lessons of this stage is the recognition of your own agency. You begin to see that you are not simply a passive participant in your relationships, but an active creator of your experience. This realization is both empowering and humbling. It reminds you that while you cannot control another person's actions or feelings, you have the power to choose how you respond, how you grow, and how you move forward. As this understanding deepens, you may find yourself letting go, not out of bitterness or resignation, but out of a genuine sense of release. Letting go does not mean forgetting or diminishing the significance of what you shared. It means accepting what is, without clinging to what was or forcing what might be. It means honoring the connection for what it was, while also honoring your own path and the journey that lies ahead. This stage of no contact also brings with it a heightened sense of compassion, not just for the other person, but for yourself. You begin to see your own humanity, your own imperfections with greater tenderness. You recognize that you were doing the best you could with the understanding you had at the time, and so were they. This compassion does not erase the pain or the mistakes, but it softens their edges, allowing you to hold them with grace rather than judgment. Having acceptance of how things are, and as this compassion grows, so too does your sense of freedom. You start to see that your worth is not tied to the outcome of any relationship, that your happiness does not depend on another person's presence or approval. This is not a rejection of connection, it is an affirmation of your own completeness. It is the realization that true connection begins within, and from that place of wholeness, you can engage with others in a way that is authentic, loving, and free. The silence that once felt oppressive now feels like a gift. It is a space where you can reflect, grow, and simply be. It is a reminder that even in the absence of another, you are never truly alone, for you are always connected to yourself, to the world around you, and to the infinite possibilities of life. Listen to the pattering of the rain outside. Listen to your breath. In the end, this stage is not about closure or resolution. It is about transformation. It is about using the experience of no contact as a catalyst for deeper understanding, greater self-awareness, and a stronger sense of who you are. And as you emerge from this journey, you carry with you not just the lessons of the past, but the wisdom and resilience to face whatever comes next. And the wisdom and resilience to face whatever comes next. In this way, the silence becomes not an ending, but a beginning. A doorway to a new chapter, a new way of being, and a new understanding of what it means to truly love. As the journey through no contact continues, a shift occurs that is as subtle as it is profound. It is the realization that time itself is not your enemy but your ally. In the beginning, time felt heavy, each hour a reminder of the space between you and the person you once connected with. But as time stretches and softens the edges of your emotions, you begin to see it as a healer, a quiet force working in the background to mend what was fractured. This stage is about settling into the rhythm of this healing, allowing it to unfold at its own pace without resistance or urgency. At this point, the rawness of initial emotions begins to give way to something calmer, more reflective. Where once your thoughts may have been consumed by the other person, what they're doing, how they're feeling, whether they miss you, you now find those thoughts arising less frequently, with less intensity. This is not because you have stopped caring, but because you have started to redirect your energy inward. You begin to see that the most important relationship in your life is the one you have with yourself. And this realization marks a significant turning point. It's no surprise then that the relationship becomes so important. In fact, the most important relationship in our lives is the one with ourselves. With this inward focus comes a newfound sense of curiosity. You start to explore the parts of yourself that may have been overshadowed or neglected during the relationship. What brings you joy? What ignites your passion? What dreams have you placed on hold? These questions become invitations to reconnect with your authentic self, to rediscover the things that make you feel alive. It is as though the silence of no contact has created a space for you to hear your own voice more clearly. And in that clarity, you find direction and purpose. This stage is also marked by a deepening sense of gratitude. At first, this gratitude may seem paradoxical. How can you feel thankful for something that caused you pain? But as you reflect on the journey, you begin to see the gifts hidden within the experience. Perhaps it taught you the value of boundaries, the importance of self-respect, or the strength you didn't realize you possessed. Perhaps it showed you what you truly need in a relationship, and just as importantly, what you are no longer willing to accept. This gratitude does not diminish the challenges you faced. It simply acknowledges the growth that came from them. As this sense of growth takes root, you may find yourself revisiting the memories of the relationship from a new perspective. What once felt like failures or mistakes now appear as lessons, stepping stones on your path to greater understanding. You begin to see the other person not as the cause of your pain, but as a catalyst for your transformation. This shift in perspective is freeing. It allows you to release any lingering resentment or blame and to view the experience with compassion and acceptance. In this stage, you also start to cultivate a sense of trust, not just in yourself, but in the unfolding of life. You come to understand that every experience, no matter how painful, is part of a larger tapestry, one that is woven with threads of growth, connection, and discovery. This trust allows you to let go of the need for certainty, to embrace the unknown with an open heart. It is a trust that says, whatever happens, I will be okay. I am enough. This sense of trust brings with it a quiet confidence. You begin to approach life with a newfound resilience, knowing that you have faced challenges before and come out stronger. You are no longer defined by what you have lost, but by what you have gained. Self-awareness, inner strength, and a deeper understanding of love. And with this confidence comes a readiness to move forward, not in search of something to fill a void, but in celebration of the wholeness you have rediscovered within yourself. In this chapter, we will learn how you came to realize that everything you think you want is already within you. By the time you reach this stage, the silence of no contact has transformed into something sacred. It is no longer a reminder of absence, but a testament to presence. Your presence in your own life, your ability to stand on your own and thrive. It is a space where you have learned to listen to yourself, to honor your needs, and to trust your journey. And in that space you find peace, not because everything is resolved, but because you have found resolution within yourself. In the end, this stage is not a conclusion but an opening. It is the beginning of a new chapter, one where you carry forward the lessons of the past without being weighed down by them. It is a chapter where you are free to write your own story, to choose love not from a place of lack but from a place of abundance. And in that freedom you discover the greatest gift of all, the power to create a life that is authentically, beautifully, and unapologetically your own. My friends, you stand here today not as individuals marked by some arbitrary fate, but as living manifestations of the cosmos itself. You are the chosen ones, though perhaps you don't know it yet. There is no special ceremony or mystical occurrence to mark this moment. Only the quiet realization that, like the stars, you are woven from the same fabric of existence. My friends, you stand here today not as mere individuals marked by some arbitrary fate, but as living, breathing manifestations of the cosmos itself. You are the chosen ones, though perhaps you don't fully grasp what that means just yet. There is no grand ceremony, no mystical event that declares you as special, only the quiet, profound realization that, like the stars themselves, you are woven from the same fabric of existence. And if you take a moment to pause and reflect, you will begin to feel the immense truth of this, what it means to be both the question and the answer, the journey and the destination. In this world, we often fall into the trap of thinking that we must prove our worth or earn our place. But the truth is far simpler, far more liberating. You do not need to become anything. You do not need to seek approval from anyone. The universe has already chosen you, and not because of something you've done, but because of who you are, because of the essence you carry within you. From the very beginning, when the stars were first formed, the seeds of existence were planted in you. This recognition, my friends, is the first step toward understanding the power you possess, the power that comes from aligning with the universe itself, rather than struggling against it. The world outside, with all its noise and distractions, will often tell you that you must fight for your place, that you must claw your way to the top, or that you must keep proving your worth. But these are illusions. These are the distractions of the mind, the voice that says you are not enough unless you do more. But look around. Look at the earth, the sky, the sea. None of these things strive or struggle. They simply are. The stars do not try to be stars. They simply shine. The trees do not struggle to grow. They simply reach toward the light, allowing themselves to be nourished by the earth. And so too must you allow yourself to be. This is the first secret of being the chosen one. To embrace your true nature. You may find yourself in a moment of deep uncertainty, thinking that the world is asking something more of you. But I ask you, what is there to ask of you that you do not already contain within you? You have been chosen not because of some extraordinary achievement, but because you, like the stars and the trees, are part of the great dance of the universe. The essence of the cosmos flows through you, and that is enough. You need not struggle to prove yourself, for you are already complete. And so, the second secret, the illusion of control. We are conditioned to believe that we must control the course of our lives, that if we work hard enough, we can shape our destiny. Yet, this very pursuit often blinds us to the larger picture. You see, life is not something to control, it is something to experience. The more you try to wrestle with it, the more you find yourself entangled in a web of struggle and resistance. Life does not unfold on your terms. It unfolds as it will, in its own time and rhythm. And the more you can align with this rhythm, the more power you will find in surrender. This, my friends, is where true protection lies. The moment you realize that you do not control the flow of life, you free yourself. You free yourself from the tyranny of your own expectations. You free yourself from the burden of needing to have everything figured out. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, does not need your control. It needs your trust, your willingness to flow with it, to surrender to its deeper currents. And it is in that surrender that you find the strength you've been searching for. Now, as we explore the third secret, let us turn our attention to the ego. The ego, you see, is not your enemy. It is simply a part of you, a necessary aspect of your human experience. But like any tool, when misused, it can lead you astray. The ego wants you to believe that you are separate from others, that you are more important, more deserving, more powerful. It is the voice that tells you that you are the center of the universe, that the ego is only a small fragment of your true nature. It is the part of you that needs to be tempered with humility. Humility, my friends, is not about self-deprecation. It is about recognizing your place in the grand scheme of things. It is about seeing that you are not above others, but a part of something far larger, far more intricate. When you balance the ego with humility, you align yourself with the natural flow of life, and in doing so, you protect yourself from the dangers of arrogance and isolation. For when you believe you are separate, you forget your connection to all things. And that is where you begin to lose your way. And this brings us to the fourth secret, the recognition of the oneness of all. You are not merely an individual in the world, you are the world in human form. The trees, the rivers, the stars, the people, you are all connected. The boundaries we perceive are mere illusions. There is no you versus them. There is only us, a vast, interconnected web of life. The moment you recognize this truth, you begin to protect yourself from fear, from division, and from the anxiety of feeling alone. You are never alone. You are a part of everything, and everything is a part of you. And lastly, the fifth secret, trust the journey. We live in a world that insists on certainty, on knowing what comes next. But in truth, you cannot know the journey ahead. It is not for you to control or plan. And yet, this is not something to fear. The journey itself is the greatest teacher. Life unfolds in ways that the mind cannot fathom. And the more you trust that the path will reveal itself, the more you will begin to see the wisdom in each moment. The unknown is not your enemy, it is your companion. Let go of the need to know everything and trust that you will be guided, step by step, exactly where you need to be. So, my friends, you are not here by accident. You are the chosen ones, not because you are special in any worldly way, but because you are aligned with the deepest truths of existence. The universe has already chosen you, and all that remains is for you to recognize and trust this. You do not need to fight, to struggle, or to prove yourself. You need only to surrender, to embrace your place in the dance of life, and to trust the journey. In this, you will find the protection you seek. You see, the mind will often convince you that you must be in control, that the key to life's mysteries lies in your ability to shape your own path, to impose your will on the world around you. But what I'm about to tell you is one of the most profound truths you will ever encounter. Control is an illusion. We spend our lives trying to hold the reins of fate, but the universe does not work in such a manner. It does not bend to the will of the ego, nor does it reward those who try to command it. It flows, it moves, it unfolds, and all you can do is align yourself with it. If you look closely at nature, you will see that nothing is in control. The river does not fight against the current, the tree does not struggle to reach the sky, the clouds do not push themselves across the sky. They float effortlessly, carried by the wind. These natural processes do not require force, nor do they need a hand to guide them. The universe operates with a rhythm, a cadence, that is beyond the comprehension of the human mind, and yet we try to impose our limited understanding upon it, thinking that we can control the course of events in our lives. But when you recognize that control is an illusion, something incredible happens. You begin to let go. You begin to release the constant need to manipulate every situation, to perfect every detail, and to force outcomes. You begin to trust the process. You allow yourself to be guided by the current of life, even when the path ahead is unclear, even when it takes you to places you would never have planned for yourself. This trust, this surrender to the natural flow, is where true freedom lies. You see, in letting go of control, you do not give up power, you unlock it. There is a power in surrender, a quiet strength that comes from knowing that you do not need to fight against the tide. The more you resist, the more you struggle, the more you push, the more you create friction. The more you align yourself with the flow, the more you will find yourself carried to exactly where you need to be. Suspend happiness. It is in that surrender, that acceptance, that you become a part of something greater than yourself. You become a vessel for the universal's wisdom, and you step out of the chaos of control and into the peace of being. Now, you may ask, if I do not control my life, then how can I shape my future? How can I protect myself from harm or ensure that I am moving in the right direction? The answer is simple. You protect yourself by trusting in the journey itself. Life is not a rigid sequence of events that you must direct. It is a flowing river, always changing, always evolving, and always leading you toward your highest potential. You are whatever moves, follow. The key is not to control where it goes, but to ride the waves with awareness and with presence. The more you resist the natural flow, the more you hold on to the idea that you must control everything, the more you limit your ability to move freely within it. When you trust the journey, you open yourself to the infinite possibilities that life presents. You begin to see opportunities where others see obstacles. You become a seeker of lessons rather than a victim of circumstances. You recognize that the challenges and difficulties you encounter are not there to break you, but to refine you, to shape you into the person you are meant to become. They are the winds that carry you forward, pushing you toward new heights, toward growth, toward understanding. And when you trust this process, when you stop trying to control it, you discover the profound beauty of simply being alive. But how, you may wonder, does this trust protect me? How does surrendering to the flow keep me safe? The protection lies in the fact that when you let go of control, you cease fighting against life itself. You become less attached to the outcomes, less driven by fear, and more open to the infinite intelligence that is always guiding you. You stop seeing yourself as separate from the universe, as though you are an individual struggling to survive in a hostile world. Instead, you recognize that you are a part of that universe, a vital thread woven into the fabric of existence. And in that recognition, you find a deep sense of peace, a peace that comes from knowing that you are always in the right place, at the right time, doing the right thing, because you are in alignment with the very forces that created you. The moment you stop trying to control everything, you stop creating resistance, you stop creating the anxiety that comes with the constant need for things to go your way. You stop being the puppet of your own fears, your own expectations, and you start to experience the world in its true form, a beautiful, unpredictable, and ever unfolding mystery. You begin to see that nothing is random, nothing is by chance. Everything that comes into your life is there for a reason, even if you cannot immediately understand why. It is all part of the journey, and when you stop trying to control it, you open yourself to the possibility that the journey itself will bring you exactly what you need. So, my friends, I ask you to let go. Let go of the need to control, to plan, to manipulate every circumstance. Trust that life knows where it is going. Trust that you are part of something far greater than your individual existence, and that by aligning yourself with this greater flow, you will be carried to exactly where you need to be. You are not alone. You are not lost. You are a part of the dance of existence, and in that dance there is no need for control, only for trust. And in this trust, you will find protection. Not because you can control life, but because life, in its infinite wisdom, will always take care of you. The ego, my friends, is often misunderstood. It is not inherently bad, nor is it an enemy to be vanquished. The ego is, in fact, a necessary part of our human experience. It gives us a sense of individuality, a sense of self that allows us to navigate the world, to act, and to respond. Without the ego, we would be lost in the vast sea of existence, unable to make sense of our place in it, imaginatively unable to have our will. The sense of our meaning and purpose, the value of the human soul, and imagined precision. But like all things, when taken to excess, when allowed to dominate our perception, the ego becomes a distortion, a veil that hides the deeper truth of who we are. When we allow the ego to take control, when we begin to believe that we are separate from others, that we are somehow superior or more important, we fall into the trap of isolation. The ego tells us that we are distinct, that we are different, that we are better than others, and it builds walls around us. These walls at first may seem protective. They may provide a sense of safety and security. But they also keep us locked away from the vastness of the world, from the interconnectedness that binds all things together. The ego, when unchecked, leads to separation, separation from others, from nature, from the universe itself. And yet the ego, in its limited view, does not realize that it is a part of something far greater. It does not understand that it is not separate, but interconnected with everything around it. It is like a wave that believes itself to be separate from the ocean. The wave rises, crashes, and fades, but it is never separate from the ocean. It is always part of it, no matter what form it takes. The same is true for you. The ego may tell you that you are an isolated individual, but the deeper truth is that you are part of a vast, interconnected web of life. You are not separate, and the moment you recognize this truth, the walls the ego has built begin to crumble. This is where humility comes in. Humility is not about self-deprecation or about seeing yourself as insignificant. It is about recognizing your place in the grand scheme of things. It is about understanding that while you are a unique expression of the universe, you are not the center of it. You are not above others, nor are you below them. You are a part of the whole, and in that recognition, you find your true power. Humility is the antidote to the ego's arrogance. It is the recognition that you are a small yet vital part of the infinite, and that your worth is not determined by comparison to others, but by your inherent connection to all things. When you embrace humility, you open yourself to the wisdom of the universe. You begin to see that you are not here to prove yourself, to be better than others, or to compete for a place in the world. You are here to learn, to grow, and to contribute to the greater whole. Humility allows you to step back from the ego's constant need for validation and recognition, and, instead, to align yourself with the flow of life. In doing so, you find a sense of peace that cannot be found in the chase for status or approval. You become at ease with who you are, not because you are better than others, but because you are enough just as you are. In this way, humility protects you from the dangers of arrogance and isolation. The ego, in its need to distinguish itself, creates barriers that keep you disconnected from the world around you. But humility tears down those barriers, allowing you to experience the oneness of all things. It allows you to see others not as competitors, but as fellow travelers on the same journey. It helps you to recognize that the same life force that flows through you flows through every living being. And when you see the world this way, when you see others this way, you cannot help but feel connected, and in that connection you find protection. The ego, when left unchecked, isolates you. It makes you believe that you must fend for yourself, that you must protect yourself from others. But humility opens you up to the understanding that you are never alone. You are always connected to the universe, to the people around you, to the earth beneath your feet. And in that connection you are protected from the loneliness and fear that the ego so often brings. You do not need to fight to prove yourself, for you already have a place in the world. You do not need to be better than anyone else, for you are already complete as you are. This is the beauty of humility. It allows you to step into the flow of life with an open heart, with the understanding that you are part of something far greater than yourself. It allows you to let go of the ego's need to separate, to compete, and to dominate. Instead, you can rest in the knowledge that you are exactly where you need to be, and that the universe is unfolding as it should. In this place of humility, you find your true strength, not in the validation of others, not in the ego's need for recognition, but in the quiet assurance that you are part of the great dance of life, and that dance will always lead you where you need to go. So, my friends, embrace humility, not as a sign of weakness, but as a recognition of your place in the larger web of existence. Understand that you are not above others, nor are you below them, but you are all equal expressions of the same universal energy. By doing so, you will free yourself from the ego's grip, and you will find the protection that comes from living in harmony with the world, rather than in opposition to it. To understand the fourth secret, we must come to grips with a concept that is both deeply simple and extraordinarily profound: the oneness of all things. You are not merely an individual walking through life in isolation. You are not a solitary entity attempting to carve out a place in a world that is separate from you. The truth is, you are the world. The world is you. Every person, every animal, every tree, every star, every drop of rain, and every gust of wind. These are not things that exist independently of you, but rather they are expressions of the same underlying reality that you are a part of. We tend to see ourselves as separate from others, as distinct individuals with our own thoughts, desires, and goals. We divide the world into categories: us versus them, me versus you, self versus other. But this division is a mirage, a trick of the mind. When you peel back the layers of your perception, when you look beyond the surface, you see that all things are The boundaries that the ego constructs are not real. They are simply the byproducts of a mind that cannot fathom the vast interconnectedness of existence. But once you begin to see through these illusions, once you recognize that you are not separate but a vital part of the whole, you experience a shift. You realize that everything is connected, and in that realization you unlock a deeper sense of peace, purpose, and protection. When you understand that you are not separate from others, you stop seeing the world as a competition. You stop feeling the need to fight for your place, to prove your worth, or to elevate yourself above those around you. Instead, you begin to see yourself as part of the same fabric that binds all things together. The distinction between self and other dissolves, and you see that the well-being of others is intricately tied to your own. The suffering of one is the suffering of all, and the joy of one is the joy of all. In this recognition, you no longer feel isolated or alone, because you understand that you are part of a greater whole, a vast web of existence that stretches far beyond the confines of your individual life. This understanding of oneness also brings a deep sense of compassion. When you see others as extensions of yourself, you cannot help but feel empathy for their struggles and their pain. You begin to understand that when you harm another, you are harming yourself, and when you help another, you are helping yourself. This is not just a moral truth, but a spiritual one. The interconnectedness of all things is not simply a concept to be acknowledged. It is a reality to be lived. And when you live in accordance with this truth, you find that you are no longer driven by the fears and desires that come from separation. You are no longer motivated by the need to win or to prove your superiority, because you understand that your success is not at the expense of others, and their success is not at the expense of you. In this deep awareness of oneness, there is protection. The more you recognize that you are connected to all things, the less you fear. You are no longer afraid of being abandoned, because you understand that you are never truly alone. You are not afraid of failure, because you know that failure is not a judgment, but a stepping stone on the path to growth. You are not afraid of loss, because you understand that nothing is truly lost. It is simply transformed, just as the river is transformed as it moves from one place to another. The more you open yourself to this truth, the more you align yourself with the natural flow of life, and in doing so you find yourself protected from the anxiety, the loneliness, and the fear that arise from the illusion of separation. Now, oneness also allows you to release the need to control. When you see that all things are interconnected, you stop trying to force your will upon the world. You no longer feel the need to make everything fit into your narrow view of how things should be. You surrender to the natural flow of life, trusting that it will carry you where you need to go. You begin to see that life is not something to be controlled. It is something to be experienced, something to be lived in harmony. The protection that comes from recognizing the oneness of all things is not a physical shield, but a mental and spiritual shield. It is the protection that comes from knowing that you are part of something much larger than yourself, something far greater than the individual concerns that preoccupy the mind. It is the protection that comes from seeing that your life is not a solitary journey, but a shared journey, one that is intimately connected with the lives of others. This is what gives the purpose to life. And when you see this, when you truly grasp the interconnectedness of all things, you find a deep sense of peace. You no longer feel the need to defend yourself, because you understand that you are part of the flow, part of the dance of life. You are always supported, always held, always connected. So, my friends, take a moment to reflect on this truth. You are not separate. You are not alone. You are part of a vast, interconnected web of life, and in that web you are never isolated. When you recognize the oneness of all things, you begin to see the world with new eyes. You see that every person you encounter is a reflection of yourself, that every experience is an opportunity for growth, and that every moment is a chance to align with the flow of life. And in this recognition you find protection, not through force or resistance, but through surrender to the truth that you are part of something far greater than yourself. And in that surrender, you find the peace and protection that you seek. The fifth secret is one that may seem simple on the surface, but is in fact one of the most difficult for many of us to truly grasp and embody: the art of letting go. We are all attached to something, whether it's a person, an outcome, a desire, or an idea of who we think we should be. These attachments, while often providing us with a sense of security and direction, can also become the very things that imprison us. Letting go with amusement is one. In our efforts to hold on tightly to what we think we need, we inadvertently create suffering, resistance, and a profound sense of dissatisfaction. And so, the secret to protecting ourselves, paradoxically, lies not in grasping more tightly, but in letting go. Letting go is not about giving up. It is not about resigning yourself to defeat or abandoning your goals and dreams. Rather, it is about releasing the tight grip we have on the need for things to be a certain way, for life to unfold according to our desires and expectations. It is about recognizing that life is fluid, ever-changing and unpredictable, and that our attachment to particular outcomes only serves to create suffering when things inevitably do not go according to plan. It is about trusting in the natural flow of existence, understanding that life is not something we must control, but something we must learn to dance with. You see, the more we hold on to something, the more we cling to it, the more we create tension in our lives. It's as though we are grasping a rope that is tied to something we want to keep, and the tighter we pull, the more the rope burns into our hands. We convince ourselves that we must maintain control over everything, the people in our lives, the direction of our careers, the way others perceive us, the outcomes of our efforts. But the reality is that control is an illusion, and the tighter we try to hold on, the more we suffer. When we can release our grip, when we can surrender to the ebb and flow of life, we experience a profound shift. A shift from tension to ease, from struggle to peace. This act of letting go is often accompanied by fear. Fear that if we release our attachment to a particular outcome, we will lose something valuable. Fear that if we let go of control, we will be lost, unmoored, without direction. But what if I told you that it is precisely in the letting go that we find our true direction? The more we cling to a specific outcome, the more we close ourselves off to the vast array of possibilities that the universe has to offer. When we let go, we allow space for new opportunities to arise, for new directions to unfold, for life to guide us to where we are meant to go. Letting go opens us up to a deeper wisdom, a wisdom that transcends the limited vision of the ego and allows us to see the bigger picture, the picture that life is always painting for us, even when we cannot see it in the moment. And then the picture reveals itself. In letting go, we also free ourselves from the burden of attachment. We release the need to constantly prove our worth, to live up to the expectations of others, or to meet the standards we have set for ourselves. We realize that we are not defined by what we have or what we achieve, but by who we are at our core. We are not our possessions, our titles, or our accomplishments. These things are fleeting, but who we are, the essence of our being, is eternal. And when we let go of the attachments that obscure this truth, we come to a place of profound peace and self-acceptance. Letting go also means releasing the past. So many of us carry the weight of past mistakes, regrets, and wounds, holding on to them as though they define us. We allow our past to dictate our present, to shape our sense of worth and identity. But in holding on to the past, we become trapped in it, unable to move forward. Letting go means releasing the stories we tell ourselves about who we were, and instead embracing the truth of who we are right now. It means recognizing that the past is a collection of moments that no longer exist, and that the only true reality is the present moment, which is always in a state of flow and transformation. By letting go of the past, we make room for the present to reveal itself to us, and for the future to unfold in ways we could never have predicted. The beauty of letting go is that it brings us into alignment with the flow of life. When we hold on too tightly, we create resistance. We try to impose our will on the world, and in doing so we block the natural currents that are trying to guide us. But when we release our attachment, we allow ourselves to be carried by life's currents. We allow life to take us where we are meant to go, even when we cannot see the full path ahead. In letting go, we trust that life knows the way. And when we trust, we protect ourselves from the stress, anxiety, and frustration that come from trying to force things to happen. We no longer need to control, because we know that life is unfolding exactly as it should. So, my friends, I invite you to take a deep breath and let go. Let go of the need to control. Let go of the fear of uncertainty. Let go of the attachment to specific outcomes, and trust that life is leading you exactly where you need to be. When you let go, you will find that you are not losing anything at all. You are simply making space for something far greater to enter your life. And in that space, you will find freedom. You will find peace. You will find the protection that comes from trusting in the flow of life and surrendering to its wisdom. Let go, and you will discover that in doing so, you are not losing control. You are gaining a deeper sense of connection, a deeper sense of self, and a deeper sense of peace.